Well, well, well. We wanted battles for the lead. We wanted drama. We got it here today at the Austrian Grand Prix. We'll get into everything in this reaction here. You're watching Stop and Go F1. I forgot to say that. Make sure to like and subscribe. Let's get into the Austrian Grand Prix. We're going to start at the start, because that's how we do it. But don't worry, I will talk about the thing that everyone wants us to talk about. Before we get in, thanks to the members, Dakota and the Joyous James. They are our members at AI Racing level and above. If you want to join them, get a shout out in the videos, link in the description. So, Max Verstappen's on pole, Lando Norris is alongside, pit lane start for Zhou, everyone on mediums apart from Zhou, who's on hards. Let's start the race. Max Verstappen gets a great start. Further back, there's a bit of a tap between Piastri and Leclerc. Total racing incident, but completely ruins Leclerc's race. Has damage to the front wing, has to pit immediately. First of, I think, 4 pit stops for Charles Leclerc in this race. Piastri tries to go around the outside of Sergio Perez. Perez pushes him wide, and then he loses a place not just to Perez, but also to Leclerc, until Leclerc goes into the pits. Sargent also pits on lap 1. Apparently he had damage as well. I'm not sure who with. I guess like a Bottas maybe, but I'm not 100% sure. Hamilton's attacking Russell quite hard at the start on lap 3. And a lap later, he passes Russell, but Russell's able to get him back into turn 4. A move we've seen a lot this weekend, not just in F1, but in F2, F3 as well. A lot of guys who got overtaken into turn 3, able to get that back into turn 4, which is always quite nice to see. Good little battles there. So then, what that leads to actually is Sainz is able to close in on these two. A couple laps later, on lap 6, Sainz is able to get up past Hamilton for P4. And then a few laps after that, Piastri is around the outside of Sergio Perez for P6, round turn 6 as well. Fantastic move from Oscar Piastri on lap 8. Then the first of the real pit stops start, the ones which are non-damage related. Magnussen and Ricciardo pit on lap 11. It was Hülkenberg and Alonso on lap 12. Magnussen able to pass Hülkenberg on the much warmer tyres. Albon pits on lap 13. Hülkenberg gets Magnussen back. A nice little battle between the Haas lads. No love lost there after the Denmark-Germany game of last night. Albon passes Leclerc for P18 on lap 15. Leclerc not doing well at all at this stage, but I thought he'd still be faster than a Williams. Apparently not. Magnussen told to save tyres, and he replies, F that. Leclerc then pits again on lap 17, not staying out at all long there, going on to the mediums. Hülkenberg and Magnussen are able to get past Zhou in pretty easy fashion on lap 19. Ocon and Bottas both come into pit on lap 20. Alonso hits Zhou into turn 3 on lap 21. Initially, this looked like a really just stupid error from Alonso as he just hit Zhou up the back, but it looked like he was just carrying a bit too much speed, had quite a big lock-up and had no control of the car there. He would get a penalty for that later on. Hamilton pits on lap 22, as does Yuki Tsunoda and Sergio Perez. Sorry, I had to cough there because we get our first snitch watch of the race. We haven't had a snitch watch in a while, but there's some snitching going on because Piastri calls out Lewis Hamilton, saying he went over the white line at pit entry, and he did, but only ever so just. Russell pits on lap 23, as does Sainz. Verstappen pits on lap 24, and then then we start getting a few penalties here. There's a 10-second penalty for Alonso for causing a collision, and a 5-second penalty for Lewis Hamilton for crossing the white line. Not the last penalties of the day. Piastri pits on lap 26. Verstappen's complaining now of a possible gearbox issue. We didn't hear much about that too much into the race. We would complain of tyres later on, but I think the gearbox issue wasn't that big of a deal later on. Zhou pits on lap 29. There's a 5-second penalty for Sergio Perez for speeding in the pit lane. Leclerc takes his third pit stop on lap 24. 3.2 second stop as well, not too good. Ocon passes Alonso for 11th lap 35, and then Gasly gets past him pretty soon after on lap 26. A real battle between both Alpine drivers throughout most of this race here. I was going to say no love lost, but I don't think there's any love to begin with there between these guys. Elbows properly out between the both of them. Alonso comes in on lap 36 and serves his penalty and gets onto the hard tyres. Magnussen comes in on lap 38 and... No, Magnussen was lap 30... Ricciardo was 38, then Hulkenberg, then Albon on lap 41. Gasly finally gets past Ocon for 8th place on lap 41. Great move from Gasly, who then starts to build a bit of a gap from there before pitting on lap 44, as does Bottas. We get a replay of Ocon, though, and a bit of his floor has fallen off, so probably losing a bit of performance there for Ocon, mixed in with any tyre issue he may have had, which led him to pit on lap 45 for the mediums. Yuki Tsunoda comes in on lap 46, and we get a penalty for Albon this time, 5 seconds for crossing the white line. Russell pits on lap 47 for hards, and then there was a fantastic double overtake from Lance Stroll. Now, Russell was lapping both Stroll and Yuki Tsunoda, but as he got past Yuki, he blocked him a little bit, and Lance was able to get past both of them, gaining the position on Yuki and then lapping himself from Russell. Fantastic stuff from Stroll there. Sainz pits on lap 48, and Piastri is able to get up past Hamilton for P3 on lap 48 as well. Gasly passes Leclerc on lap 11, sorry, not lap 11, for 11th on lap 51, and then we have... My goodness, I've said all that pretty quickly because I want to get to this point. So, Verstappen and Norris pit on lap 52. Verstappen at this point has about a 6 or 7 second lead on Norris. But the pit stop isn't great. Verstappen's pit stop 6.5 seconds, Norris's 2.9. Further back, Piastri and Perez pit, but that's not as important. Lando Norris has properly closed in on Max Verstappen at this point. Leclerc pits for the 4th time, and Hamilton pits as well. On lap 54, Lando Norris is within 1 second of Max Verstappen. Lando starts accusing Max here of moving in the braking zone. Now, personally, when I was watching, I don't think he was. I think he was moving for sure, but I don't think he was moving to the extent that Lando was trying to say. I think what he was doing was perfectly within the rules and was fine. Lando goes for these huge moves on him. So he goes for these massive moves inside, but locks up and goes off the track. Max is able to take that position back. We then get another stitch watch, this time Verstappen on Norris for going off the track. Lando has been told, he's been given a warning for track limits already. So the rules state, if you're given a warning and you do track limits one more time, that's a penalty. That's a 5-second penalty. At this point, Norris goes for the most ambitious dive bomb you've ever seen into turn 3, where basically they are just side by side across the track. Both Lando and Max have to go off the track because the move was never on. As they come back on, Max takes the lead, and Lando comes over the radio and goes, I was ahead at the apex. Like, yeah, you were ahead of the apex, because you were never going to make the apex. You were never going to stay on the track. You were always going to go off and come back on. And if he's already on a warning for track limits, that's a penalty. But that penalty never comes. We have a few of these moments here where Lando is going for these dive bombs that are never going to happen. And he doesn't get punished for them. And Max is on the radio saying, come on, this is getting a bit ridiculous. And the punishment never comes. So basically, what is being told to Max here is that's fine. And I think Max gets annoyed because this time Lando goes round the outside and Max squeezes him. And there is contact there, and we have a puncture for both Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Initially, it looks like just a puncture for Max, but Lando has one as well. As they go into turn 4, Max Verstappen, with a puncture, is still defending heavily against Lando Norris. He does not want to let him go by. But they both do have punctures here. We'll get on with the rest of the race here, but who is at blame for this incident? If you look at the incident in itself, where they just hit each other, that's Max's fault. 100% is Max's fault, and he gets the penalty for it. He squeezes Norris, doesn't leave him enough room, the contact happens, that leads to the puncture. But I don't think you can just look at that incident there and say that's the incident, because that incident has been building for what? 5-6 laps at this point? Because Lando was dive bombing after dive bombing after dive bombing moves that were never ever going to happen. And I've seen people on Twitter already go, well, Max used to dive bomb all the time when he was younger. It's like, yeah, but we're not talking about those races. We're talking about these races. And in these races, this race today, that dive bomb that Norris did lap after lap after lap was never on and should have been punished. especially the one on the lap before this incident happened, where it was the clearest day they were both basically going to go straight ahead or Max was going to have to crash into him. It was clear as anything. So honestly, I think they're both as bad as each other in terms of this incident here. Without Norris doing those dive bombs, the incident doesn't happen. And without Verstappen squeezing him, the incident doesn't happen. So realistically, you can point at Verstappen for the culprit for that one incident, but I think what Norris had been doing for the laps leading up to it also lead to that incident as well. So honestly, they're both as bad as each other, and they both deserve to be out of the race. Max wasn't out of the race, though Norris was because he gave up in the pit stop. There was eventually a 5-second penalty for Norris's track limits. But at this point, the incident has already happened. You've already got these two guys so wild up that the incident had already happened. So it was far too late for that penalty to be coming in. Max pits for the softs. Norris pits as well, but as the team are working on the car, they're trying to change the front wing and change all different parts of the car. Norris just goes, oh, forget it, give up, we'll just be out the race, and he goes off into the garage. This leaves George Russell now leading this race, with Carlos Sainz behind him and then Oscar Piastri behind him. On lap 65, Piastri does another fantastic overtake, this time on Sainz, in turn 6 again, by the way, in the same place he got Perez before, and takes P2 from Carlos Sainz and starts to challenge George Russell down, but there's like 2.5 seconds, and realistically, it was never going to happen. There is a virtual safety car at this point for Debris, and they close the pit lane. But yeah, it was never really going to change anything unless there was a full course safety car. That would have really allowed Piastri to get back into it. And you got to think as well, it going back to all the way to the start of the race. We talked about this last time out in Spain, where Lando didn't have the best start, and that led to him eventually finishing second. Piastri having that incident with Leclerc at the start, that's what led to him losing this race. And there wasn't anything that he could do, and there wasn't anything Leclerc could do. It was a pure racing incident. But if they avoid that incident, Piastri wins this race here today. So yeah, I basically just got some writing here about how I felt about the incident. I'll say it again. They were both dirty, and they both deserve what happened, and they were both equally responsible. Max Verstappen does get the penalty, though, for causing the collision, which I agree with, because he did cause that collision right there. Hülkenberg now, because we're on the last lap. Hülkenberg passes Perez for P6 on the last lap. Lando Norris got driver of the day, because the driver of the day vote happens 10 laps before the end of the race. The driver of the day was Nico Hülkenberg, who was fantastic. Let's go through the finishing lineup, though. George Russell wins the race. Oscar Piastri is P2. Carlos Sainz P3. Lewis Hamilton is in P4. Max Verstappen brings it home 5th despite everything. Nico Hülkenberg, a incredible P6. Fantastic job from Nico Hülkenberg. Perez in 7th. Magnussen 8th. Ricciardo 9th. Gasly in 10th to get the last point. Leclerc had a decent recovery to finish 11th, despite his 1 million pit stops and the damage he had. Ocon was in 12th. 13th was Yuki Tsunoda. 13th was Stroll. 14th Yuki Tsunoda. 15th, Alexander Albon, 16th, Bottas, 17th, Zhou, 18th was Fernando Alonso, who somehow also got fastest lap on the last lap. Not sure how that happened, but it did. Logan Sargent was 19th, and the last of the finishers, the only DNF in the race, was Lando Norris. There you go, that was the Austrian Grand Prix. A proper mad one in it. That's how I describe that. Let me know what you thought of that incident, because I'm seeing a lot of different people saying a lot of different things, and it tends to be people with pictures of Lando Norris in their Twitter profile say that it wasn't Lando's fault, and people with pictures of Max Verstappen in their Twitter profile say it wasn't Max's fault. And I'd like to see where people fall who are down the line, because for me, I think they are both equally to blame on that incident as a whole. So, there you go. Let me know what you think. We're back tomorrow for all things driver racings. I look forward to seeing you there. Until next time, have a good one. Goodbye.